Hello and welcome to the Mystery Hour. It is now 11 o'clock. I'm Roy Michaels, and tonight I'm joined by Connor, Keith, and those of you who listen to the show frequently might notice the absence of Joseph, Evan, and Rob. Well, Evan is abroad in Europe chasing ghouls, and Rob messed with a spell book of some sort and has been sucked into an ethereal dimension. And Joseph was brutally mauled and hospitalized by a Sasquatch. Hashtag pray for Joseph. Fortunately, we do have a new voice on the team tonight, and our first ever field correspondent, Mary. How's it going, Mary?
Pretty good.
During our time as the first, foremost, and only late-night paranormal talk show right here on WMEB 91.9 FM, Orono, Maine, we have explored mysteries as remote as the outer reaches of our cosmos, and as deep, figuratively and literally speaking, as the ocean. But tonight our focus will not be on mysteries abroad, but instead we'll be covering the mystery from right here at the University of Maine campus in Orono, and our first ever field piece brought to you by our new member, Mary Hamilton. Here goes nothing.
Hello, I'm Mary Hamilton, and I'm currently sitting with Roy Michaels inside of a wigwam at the Hudson Museum here at the University of Maine in Orono.
The Hudson Museum is a bastion of culture, art, and history. Here you will find artifacts from Micronesia to Maine, whether it's baskets, instruments, clothing, sculptures, or even mystery.
We have chosen to visit the Hudson Museum today and sit in this lovely wigwam to pursue a sort of campus legend regarding two portraits within the main Indian gallery. The first, Molly Molasses, and the second, her daughter Sarah.
In order to understand the strange and seemingly supernatural events that have given rise to the mystery surrounding the two works of art, we decided to interview the portrait of Molly Molasses herself.
So can you just walk me through your day as a painting?
But that ultimately proved to be an unfruitful affair, so we decided to hit the books and dive into the mythology. Molly Molasses was an early 19th century Penobscot woman who was born during 1775 in the Penobscot River Valley. Her life was not easy. She had to survive by enduring Maine's brutal winters and surviving off the land in Wabanaki country, while also navigating a harsh social climate that expected women to be subject to their husbands and fathers. Despite the odds, due to her ability to live off the land and skills as a trader, Molly established herself as a strong, independent woman within her community. Molly was also known for possessing the gift of Medewin, a form of magic. Perhaps her reputation as a strong single woman in a patriarchal society, coupled with her famed gift of Medewin, explains why some members of the public began to demonize her during the twilight years of her life.
Bonnie McBride writes in her novel Women of the Dawn, in 1865, Molly Molasses was 90 years old and bitter to the bone. Most folks in Bangor stepped aside when she passed, looking down to avoid her gaze. Others, mesmerized by her keen dark eyes, paused long enough to drop a coin into her outreached hand. Some gave because they pitied her, especially during Maine's merciless winters when she clutched a worn woolen blanket around the slope of her shoulders. Many gave out of fear, for they had heard that this old Penobscot woman was a witch. When irritated by the way someone treated her, she arranged her face in a disfiguring frown and used a voice that seemed to come from deep within her belly. She threatened to strike back. She did this so effectively that some of her own people even began to fear her. Aware that she had Medulin, they whispered among one another, "If she says you die, you die." Everyone knew better than to cross her.
Perhaps her famed gift of Medewin, as well as her talent for scaring those who crossed her, can shed some light on these strange happenings here at the museum. The two seemingly haunted portraits of Molly Molasses and her daughter Sarah sit in the corner of the museum in separate spacious glass display cases on adjacent sides of the room. The portrait of Sarah Molasses has a twin painted in a different gallery. To cope with the loneliness of being separated from her twin, it is believed that Sarah prefers to be on display at all times so that she may watch people. Otherwise, she is known to cause havoc within the museum. On the opposite side of the room, several mysterious lawn streaks have collected on the glass wall of Molly's display case. However, upon investigation, no signs of moisture or leaks were discovered. Furthermore, and more disconcerting, handprints have often been discovered on the inside of the case, as if someone was leaning palms forward on the glass, gazing into the museum ahead. Both cases are alarmed and would go off if anyone were to tamper with them. However, the alarms do go off, but only when no living soul is in the gallery. It is worth mentioning that when I met Mary to begin our investigation, I noticed that she was clutching what appeared to be a handful of dry spaghetti. When I asked, she explained to me that she was holding a bundle of sweetgrass. From a supernatural perspective, the pleasing aroma of sweetgrass has been used to attract good spirits and positive energies. While viewing the displays in question, Mary observed that someone had tucked a large bundle of sweetgrass under her lip in both cases, almost completely out of view. To me, this discovery instantly added more gravity to the story. Someone who works with these portraits intimately felt compelled to leave the sweetgrass in each case. Perhaps it was out of respect or in response to the bizarre campus legend regarding the portraits of Molly Molasses and her daughter Sarah. It is believed that those with Medewin can make themselves heard to whom they will at any distance. Could these stories be the result of Molly and Sarah Molasses contacting us through the ripples of time or beyond the grave? For now, all that is certain is that their portraits within the Hudson Museum are a great source of mystery here at the University of Maine. And there you have it. Thank you so much, Mary, for bringing our attention to that story. How did you come across the mystery in the first place?
Well, a friend of mine, we were working on this documentary on campus, and we decided to go to the Hudson Museum just as a resource on, Penobscot artifacts and things like that. And, we'd made our way throughout the whole museum, and, that area where the two paintings were is like kind of the dead end of that. Like that's where you end up when you're going through all of the different artifacts. And when we got to that area, my friend and I, we just kind of like lingered there for a little bit. And as we were walking out, I had to ask the person at the front desk if she had any stories or any information that she could tell us on any of the different cases or anything. And it was really a broad question. My friend pretty much just asked, like, do you have any stories? And like without even like, I don't know, it's just like any thought, the person at the front desk led us right back to where we had just been. And it was the area with Molly Molasses's portrait. And it was a really broad question, and the first thing that came to her mind was to ask or to tell us about these stories. And she pretty much said that there were some strange things that were attached to the paintings, and that especially the display cases in just that area, which was mostly just Penobscot artifacts and different portraits and things like that. One of the display cases has had a couple times of handprints, she had said, that were from the inside, and they can't explain it because they obviously log like who goes in and who goes out and for what reasons, and no one had been in and opening the cases, and there had literally been a handprint from the inside.
The handprint thing is something that certainly gives me goosebumps every time I think about this story. I remember you telling me that about the handprint, and if you don't mind me mentioning this on air, you did tell me that you recently had a nightmare before we were beginning our investigation where there were handprints on your bedroom window. Do you want to elaborate on that?
Well, yeah. So I was having this dream, and it was kind of getting like really intense, and then all of a sudden, like, I remember that like I woke up and I was like kind of in between like waking up and dream, I guess, and I look over to my window, and I see that someone's knocking on my window, like through my blinds. Like, I live on the first floor of my apartment complex, and it's like I can see through the shades that someone's knocking on my door, and then all of a sudden they just stop and they put their hand like on the window, and it's like I have these weird dreams, and they end my dreams where I think that I wake up, but then I'm not really awake, but it's like literally exactly what my room looks like. And so I just like almost was just kind of there, like, really, like, did this happen? Is this really happening? Did someone try to like come knock on my door and couldn't knock on my door? And then I was thinking about like the handprint and like how it was a single handprint on the glass of the display case, and like I just like got freaked out from then on. And that's why I brought the sweetgrass that day when we went back, because I was just instantly like, she's like, it's like reaching me, like it's weird, like whatever it is, I just like instantly couldn't stop thinking about like that it's like trying to reach.
Yeah, you better just leave the house, sweetgrass in tow.
Yeah.
Keith?
Mary, if you don't mind me asking, do you believe that this is the same entity entering your dream, or do you think it's like a dream ghoul of sorts? Like, do you think it's a ghoul, is what I'm asking, is the big question here?
The dream ghoul, I don't see that very often.
The dream ghoul, yeah. I don't know if you are an expert in dream ghouls, but here on the show, we did have a dream Sherpa on the program, Lakota Sanborn, a couple months ago, and he explained to us the phenomena of dream ghouls, which is sort of an entity that's entirely separate than what the dream is actually about. But what it does is it kind of harbors on your feel and kind of creeps into those dreams where the lines between reality and the dream world are ambiguous, and sort of lingers in your head and feeds off the fear. Also, Keith, think he was jesting when he used the term dream ghoul.
Absolutely not. At the Institute, we have long since moved past these barriers that would prevent one from describing them as such. They have openly embraced the term dream ghoul.
It's
Yeah.
official.
I mean, what struck me most about the dream is that I knew sort of, because he pitched it to me, and it was the best pitch. The only pitch here on the Mystery Hour, but the best pitch nonetheless. And
Connor for host.
that was actually the worst pitch, and I'm glad that's behind us. We have a good program now. Anyway, okay, so that dream freaked me out when you told me. I got goosebumps immediately because of the connection between the handprints on the glass in the display case and the handprint on your window. And do you feel as though the two events are correlated?
I definitely did when it happened. Like, I don't know, I felt kind of foolish walking into the museum with that sweetgrass, but like, I don't know. I was just like freaked out by it. I felt, because it's like those dreams, like where you literally can't tell if you're awake or if it's just continuing through.
Yeah.
It just felt like it was actually happening. It was too much.
Yes, Connor?
I just want to say, don't feel foolish. Any paranormal expert would wholeheartedly recommend to do exactly what you did. So don't feel bad about it. In the least, you did exactly what you were supposed to do.
Also, likewise, I did think that you originally had a handful of spaghetti in your hand, dry spaghetti, not in el dente form yet, but I do believe that, sort of following the same train of thought that Connor had, that dry spaghetti would also have been acceptable in the situation, just because you never... Yes, Keith?
Do you believe it actually, I guess that was a very quick transition. Do you think that it has to be dry spaghetti, or could it actually be sweetgrass? But, sorry, I flipped that one around. Do they have to know that it's sweetgrass, or could you just present the dry spaghetti and hope that it passed?
I would suggest not presenting the dry spaghetti. You want to keep that in the pantry somewhere cool and dry and keep it fresh. You don't want to use that to draw in positive spiritual energy. I mean, if anything, you're just going to draw in other hungry students here on campus. That's Keith.
I have a second point here. Mary, do not feel foolish. Even if you didn't need that sweetgrass, us getting the word out here is going to raise the value of it. So at the end of the day, you've made a great investment.
Yeah, so just buy, if you're listening tonight, buy your sweetgrass shares.
Get them while they're hot.
Invest. This is the Mad Mystery Money Hour with your host, me, Cash Money Roy Michaels. I do understand, Mary, that you recently graduated here at the University of Maine, and to that I say congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
And was this your first? Is this your first post-graduation job now that you have a degree?
Yes, it is actually. Yeah.
Oh, very cool, very cool. Were you expecting to make more or less money with your first job?
This is about what I expected.
Yes, Keith.
We pay in portfolio. It'll be great resume building. You can show it to anyone else you need. It's a great stepping stone. We're glad to have you aboard.
We pay in spaghetti.
No.
Dry. No?
No
We
dry
used to.
spaghetti. We pay in sweetgrass now.
Sweetgrass, yeah. I don't know, it's going to be too expensive soon.
Soon.
Don't sell, people.
Absolutely. Hold on to the sweetgrass. If we sell it now, we'll flood the market, and it'll just be a terrible
Nobody wants that.
terrible thing for all parties involved.
Keep buying.
I kind of want to, since the focus of tonight's field piece was on two pieces of haunted art, I kind of want to start a discussion on objects that may be a conduit for paranormal activity, and likewise just pieces of art that are surrounded by supernatural circumstance, such as bleeding statues, portraits that follow you around the room. Do any of you, for anyone, do you believe that objects can sort of provide a gateway for some sort of spiritual entity to communicate with the living?
Certainly, yes. Especially humanoid type objects, statues, and paintings of people, and things like that. Animals, even. I've seen it many times.
Where?
At my house, actually.
Keith?
Do you believe that they are attracted to the human form? Is that what you're saying? Or is it like, do they just know that it's valuable to us?
I think they know that if they're in a humanoid object, it'll be easier for them to communicate to us because we can relate
Okay.
to that object.
Makes sense.
If it's a box, it's like, what are they going to do? They're not going to move the box about. We're not going to
Yeah.
know what they're trying to convey.
Yeah. Yeah, sort of. I wonder how the works of art, the portraits, play, like how they play into the strange events over at the Hudson Museum. I'm curious by the medium, the fact that it's a portrait, it's very personal. It's of the person in question, and I wonder if it's more appropriate that it's like a portrait as opposed to, say, an artifact, an instrument, a piece of clothing.
Yeah, well, I'm really, like, just the fact that the paintings are kind of causing all of this mischief around in the museum. Like, I wonder about the actual artifacts that they have from Molly Molasses, like her actual headpiece in the Abbey Museum. Like,
Ooh.
I wonder if there's, like, stories there, too, because that was, like, actual clothing that she wore, and this is just, like, a painting of her.
Yeah, and that's a much more personal, in that sweat.
Yeah.
You got straight to the point on that one.
I'm sorry, well, I was thinking about the Perspiring statue of Saint Bringelberg. It's a, speaking of sort of believing statues, it is a sculpture made of marble that is known to perspire, and, during the Middle Ages, people would go on pilgrimages to lick the salty brow of the said statue.
Well, I mean, when you sculpt something or you paint something, you put a lot of yourself into it. You put your time and your energy into it, and sometimes it's just so charged up with the human soul that maybe it takes on the creator's attributes. Maybe a sweaty man carved this statue.
Yeah, and
That's where it comes from.
I would like to just kind of make a note. I don't know how the climate is in Studio B at the moment, but over here in Studio A, if I were to make a sculpture, it would most undoubtedly sweat.
Yeah, it's quite hot over here.
Yeah.
It would be more than the brow, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think that means it's time for us to go to our first break. We gotta cool off and sort of re-energize for the upcoming mystery half hour, the second half of the first only number one late night paranormal talk show right here on 91.9 FM WMB, Orono, Maine. I'm Roy Michaels. It's now 11:24, and we'll be back very shortly. Here is a promo and a brief song. Stick around.
It's early in the morning, about 2:45.
Well, it's not that early. 7 to 9 on Thursday mornings, tune into The Bud Show. R&B and soul from the 60s, music's greatest decade.
Tune in to The Bud Show, Thursday mornings at 7 a.m. on WMEB 91.9 FM, Orono, Maine. College radio in a class by itself.
Early in the morning, carry on till the rock of dawn, for your favorite is gone. On the highest mountain, underneath the sky,
Hello and welcome back to the Mystery Hour, the first, only, and number one late night paranormal talk show right here on 91.9 FM WMEB Orono, Maine. I'm Roy Michaels. It is now 11:27. I'm joined by Keith, Connor, and our new field correspondent, Mary. How's it going?
Good.
Good. Before the break, we discussed the supernatural phenomena surrounding two paintings in the Hudson Museum. And I sort of want to kind of get back into the ghost stories here. And I hope you don't mind me sharing this on air, Mary, but you once, you've told me the scariest ghost story I've never heard.
Right.
We were telling ghost stories and you were about to get into it, and you seemed just so distraught that you couldn't carry forward. And let me tell you, like, maybe it's good that you did that, because I was terrified. The mystery has been killing me, and I think maybe the story wouldn't have lived up to the fear you transferred on to me. But I was wondering if you would be interested in telling the scariest ghost story I've never heard on the show with us tonight.
Well, to be honest, I really don't even remember a lot of that story, because as soon as I heard it, I instantly just had this feeling that, like, if I told anybody about anything that, like, any of the facts that are about this story, like, it would just, like, come back to, like, haunt me. Almost like, you know, like in The Ring, where it's like, if you see the movie, it, like, you have to, like, show somebody else.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
Like,
It gets you,
if you tell the story, like, it instantly, like, it just, like, stays with you, but, like, kind of the opposite, I guess. I don't know. I just, like, felt like if I told the story that I would automatically just be, like...
become like a target.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I'd be instantly a target. I remember it was something about a chicken coop and, like, a dead baby.
That's right.
And it was
the
just,
chicken coop story.
there was a chicken coop and a dead baby, and just, like, not really. It's just really freaky.
I just remember thinking, you got to the chicken coop part,
Yes.
and then that's when, like, the story ended. And since then, I've been sort of, like, thinking, like, what sort of horror is going on inside of the chicken coop? And I think sort of chicken coops have a more darker connotation in my mind.
Yeah, it's, I don't know. It's gotten to the point, like, I literally didn't tell anyone because I've forgotten a majority of, like, the pieces that go in between, like, the two things that I remember.
Yeah.
I just have this image in my mind. It's just like...
So are you saying it's a puzzle, and so far maybe it's a bridge that's incomplete, maybe that's a more apt metaphor, and on one side you have a chicken coop,
Yeah.
and on the other side you have dead babies.
Yeah.
And the middle is what you're struggling with?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I mean, we appreciate you even just hinting at it, because we deal with this a lot and we understand how hard it can be.
Yeah, I don't mean to recall any dark memories.
If you ever remember, if you ever feel like telling us, we're always open to you. I think we're all in agreement on that.
Yeah, you did tell me a great story about a postman once, some sort of
Right.
apparition tale. Do you remember that
I
one?
remember that one. So my friend, this actually happened to her, and she told me this, that one day when she was really little, then this was obviously told back to her by her parents, that, you know, she was running around, and then, you know, she heard someone at the door, and she opened the door, and, you know, she looked at the front yard, and there was a postman, and, well, what she described as a postman waving to her. And, you know, she remembered this enough to, like, tell her parents that, you know, there was somebody in the yard, and it was what she described as the postman. And when her parents went to go look around, there was nobody around, and it was almost like the man just disappeared in an instant. And so, you know, she went along, and, you know, it was just kind of like a mystery. And then one day she was running around in her living room, and her mother was going through different photographs and trying to organize things. And it was almost what her mother describes as, like, her she was just running around, my friend, and then just stopped within an instant after playing and just looked at this photo and just stopped and was like, that's the postman. And what it was her grandfather in his military uniform, and her mother is still tells this story to the day of just like so freaked out that like pretty much realizing that her child had seen her dead father like in his military uniform and thought it was the postman, but it was like just the fact that like her mother remembers like, oh, I remember you saw this guy and you described him as a postman and that's him, but that's my father. Like that's that's so creepy.
Such
That's
a
so creepy.
I'm terrified. It's a little upsetting that we are the only people in the Memorial Union right now. It's not a very good time to hear
We don't need
ghost
to do
stories
this.
and a little
We
bit
don't
of
need to do
yeah.
I can tell you though that if I was a ghost and I was trying to find my daughter, postman would definitely be up there on the jobs to do it because you're just going all over town. Just
Yeah, you got like meter reader, postman.
yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, keep riffing. I'm trying to think of
Lance,
something witty to come in with.
Yeah, you got cop.
Yeah, I guess you hit it
You're on a
all.
lot. Flight attendant.
Oh,
Yeah,
you're
all-
looking far.
Yeah, you're. Who knows where they are? And it's a big world.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, you ever notice that in most ghost stories people tell, it's either children or pets that sort of see the spiritual entity in question? Why is that? Do any of you have a theory? Yes, Keith?
I own 3 dogs, and I personally believe that they are just not that intelligent. We might just be reading a little too much into it, and they're pretty stupid.
I don't know, my dog really freaks me out when he's like running around and then he just stops and just looks into my closet and just stares at something that's not there. And it's like you can almost tell that it's just about human height, like with his eye, like with where his eye is, just like making eye contact, and that freaks me out. Like
Yeah. Do you think that maybe he's looking up at the garb in your closet and just sort of thinking like, that sweater.
He is very fashionable. Wowie.
possibly.
I mean, I guess we,
maybe
uh,
that's
Just
a
a
possibility.
whole-
That's a possibility.
Yeah, just a whole row of black, white, and gray clothing. Here at the Mystery Hour, we are on top of our dog joke game, the #1 dog joke show on 91.9 FM WMB Orono, Maine.
You won't find him
I'm
anywhere
Roy
else.
Michaels. Yeah, so coming back to that claim, first off, I just want to address that Mary kind of slammed your dogs, Keith. You have stupid dogs, she has smart dogs.
It's entirely possible.
Well, he said his dogs were stupid.
Yeah, that's true. I've seen them and they hopped all around me like these little 3 pug bodies just torpedoing through the air. These little aliens just making like chirping noises.
They're little. They don't have.
They're
big
so
brains.
cute though. But anyway, back to my adopted cat son, Peanut, well, 42. He would always meow back in my old apartment at places where I felt an unease and I felt like he knew. And I wonder if it was some sort of spirit, sort of based off of like similar experiences I've had in that apartment, or if the architecture was just unwelcome and it made both cat and human unsettle on a subconscious level. Yeah, Keith?
I was personally unsettled by the architecture of your apartment.
Yo, what was with the kitchen? Why was it so scary, you
It
know?
was spooky, and then upstairs you've got the narrow hallway. If something was coming up those stairs, you're done. Game over.
Yeah, very scary place.
Yeah, although the walls were very close together, that if something was charging at you, you could kind of just jump and starfish by like extending all of your limbs to kind of like fix onto the wall, and then maybe you could drop down and like land a headlock or kind of get over them.
You are a man of action.
Roberta, my mom, she's
She taught
listening
you that?
tonight. Love you, Mom. She used to have us run drills, you know?
Don't try to do kickflips in there though. I tried. Not enough room.
Don't do the kick flips.
No kick flips, no cookies. It's a
Have-
waste.
You wake up everyone in the house. It's not good.
Have you ever seen a child react to a ghost?
Is this a YouTube video? Is that where this is going?
Baby reacts to ghost.
Yeah.
Can't look it up.
3 million views.
Evan's still away. He stole our database.
Yeah, I mean, I once reacted to a ghost. I've told the story before, but yeah, I think I saw a ghost. I thought it was originally a dream I had and not a memory, just sort of a nightmare. Until one day my mom sort of brought it up and was like, well, hey, what about that time you froze up in the bathtub? I was like 14 at the time. I'm just kidding. 2 years old, very old, probably younger than 2. Earliest memory, but the fact that it was an early memory made it more scary because I wasn't sure if it was an actual memory. Yes, Connor?
Yeah, I have a really old ghost sighting on my part. I was sleeping in my parents' bed because I was like 3, and I woke up and they were gone, and I looked down the hall and into the kitchen, and I saw like a girl about my age, but she was like translucent, just standing in the kitchen.
Yeah, and we all know translucence, that's kind of a hallmark of a ghost.
That's a ghost, 100%.
Yeah.
I think maybe I was just dreaming now. I don't know though. It didn't even scare me. I just had a feeling of calm come down over me.
Yeah, that's a weird. That's also a very reoccurring theme in ghost stories. That is sort of the warm light like enters your mind, and you just sort of feel like it's right at home with the ghost encounter. That's never happened to me personally. What about you guys? Is that just something people say on like? Yeah, Keith.
Yeah, I think people might make that up a little bit, but I could be biased because I have never personally experienced that.
Yeah.
I have, however, had a bunch of pretty spooky dreams.
Really? Would you like to just share one? Spookiest?
Yeah, I've spoken to you about this in the past, actually. When I first
I don't
moved
wanna
into
hear
my
it then.
house- Oh yeah. Sorry guys, not gonna tell it. Anyway, it was I probably should have told this during dreams because it's basically like a night terror or sleep paralysis. There's actually, I think there was a lightning storm that night, some sort of just, weather-based phenomenon. And I was having some trouble sleeping because, as you know, it is very enjoyable to stay up and lay in bed and just sort of listen to the rain. And I finally drifted off to sleep, and I was startled awake. And I think at this point it was probably the lightning that did it, but at the time I had assumed it was a creature because I couldn't move. There was simply no way to move at all. I struggled to get up, and I couldn't. I felt this immense pressure on my back, and I couldn't look around to see it because I simply could not move. And I sort of just fought through it. I closed my eyes and just pretended it was a dream, and just woke up the next morning. And I actually found a bunch of greasy fingerprints on my wall, leading from my doorway into the light switch.
Yeah.
And now either I'm a greaseball and I stumbled to the door and just sort of like fought around multiple times.
Eating like pizza,
yeah.
pizza bites at night.
I warmed it up.
I mean, you are a greaseball, but I don't know if you're that
Yeah.
much of a greaseball.
Like a subterranean edgelord and a greaseball. I can't see it.
Yeah, I don't know.
happening.
Yeah.
It could, like you mentioned earlier, it could be a dream pool. It could be a psychic vampire.
Oh,
A
The
greasy-
psychic vampire.
that?
Yeah,
they
Can you
love
elaborate
grease.
on that? Wait, what? Psychic vampire.
yeah, psychic. Instead of sucking blood, they suck emotion.
Oh, it makes sense.
Oh.
Makes sense, gotcha.
Okay. Yeah, Keith, I absolutely hate that story because I went to your house the day after and saw the grease stains myself. Yeah.
Saw them.
Yeah, it's
Oh my God.
terrifying.
They're inhuman.
They're just all over the walls, and it was kind of by the light switch. Like it maybe tried to turn a light switch on,
Yeah.
or like, were you hanging out the night before eating greasy food?
Unfortunately not. No, I think I probably called it a night early to listen to the rain.
Well, here's my theory. I'm gonna try to debunk your story.
Alright,
So
let's
you
go.
know, like when people eat like spicy food and they have terrible nightmares.
Yeah.
I'm starting to think that maybe you just had like one of those bean burritos you can kind of get at a gas station, and it was a little bit on the spicy side, and you went to bed and you had the night terror, but in it you actually got up and kind of just fumbled at the wall. I'm imagining just kind of like clawing at the light, not bending your elbows at all, just fully extended arms and just batting away like a cat. And yeah, Keith.
I'll have you know that I would never eat a gas station burrito. I did, however, have 16 of those little Red Hots, like those filthy sausages in those little packages.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, I ate a bunch of those.
Those are good.
They're pretty
Yeah.
good. They're
But-
great to eat before bed in a thunderstorm.
But not that greasy, so I still think that this mystery remains.
I mean, were you playing Grease the Town
I wasn't.
before bed?
No, I was playing Butter Pockets, which
Yeah.
is like the brand
Butter
name.
Pockets, exactly. It's a grease the town. You grease the room is your town, and you grease as much of it as you can.
Yeah.
So you weren't,
That's what that
playing
is.
that.
Yeah, do you know
That's what I was playing.
do you know when the application deadline is for the intramural Grease the Town team here on campus?
I'm not sure. I've been off of the scene, the Grease the Town scene, for about 3 years.
Yeah.
Probably it's coming up.
If not, like, we should just bring it back. Grease the Town.
Yeah. Grease the City. They have Grease the City in the gymnasium. So it's a larger area, so it's city.
It sounds like a lot of fun. Like you
Yeah.
would
Yeah,
slide
yeah, yeah.
quite a bit.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Bring your own grease.
It's expensive.
It's really expensive.
What about Grease the movie?
Grease the movie.
7 out of 10.
Good movie. Unrelated.
Yeah.
But Grease 2 not so good.
Don't touch the hair. Anyway, back to Molly Molasses. I was pretty skeptical going into this mystery, but I think during our investigation and the discovery of the sweetgrass tucked away in both cases kind of has me not sold, but definitely very interested in the phenomena.
Right, like, the idea, it could be a respect thing, you know, but it's also like, out of all, well, there were a couple portraits in that area, and just like last minute, just looking around and seeing that it was tucked underneath the display, like, kind of pedestal that was in front of the portrait, to kind of show that, oh, it's not really a part of
Yeah,
the
it was
exhibit.
very like meticulously kind of just tucked away.
Yeah.
We barely missed it.
Yeah.
It was kind of more like when I saw it, I first noticed little strands of grass on the floor of the display, and then
Right.
followed it to this like a foot long bundle, very
Yeah.
thick.
Yeah.
Yeah, Connor.
Going off what you said about your dream Mary and her apparent attempt to connect with you, do you think it's possible she's trying to pass her legacy on to you?
Ooh.
Maybe she respects you. She thinks you're the only one worthy.
Well, her real name was Mary.
Right.
Yeah.
From Mary to Mary.
Wow, that can't be a coincidence.
Ugh. We'll have you back on the possession episode. Pretty chill.
Nice foreshadowing.
Yeah, wow.
Good stuff.
Yeah, so when all the weird stuff happened while we were in the Hudson Museum instead of that wigwam,
Yes.
kind of getting down to the nature of the story.
Well, yeah. There was the tag, right?
The
on-
tag.
yeah. That was weird.
Yeah, so I had this piece of audio recording equipment that came in this box with a very big paper tag on it, and we had it sitting on a bench. Excuse me. Directly in front of the wigwam, and we heard this sort of like clicking noise, and immediately like both of our heads shot up just in time to see the tag do sort of like a full 180 pendulum swing, and followed by a shadow across the museum.
The shadow of light was what was getting me, and every time I literally like had to stop because it was freaking me out, because I mean it just didn't make any sense. It didn't look like it was going across the wall, because there was a pan of glass that was like right outside of where we were looking, outside of the wigwam, and then there was a wall, but it didn't even look like it was a reflection. It literally just looked like it was like almost like an orb that was just going across
Yeah.
really quickly. And so that's why I stopped every time, because I was just like so freaked out. It just like didn't make sense to
Well,
that area.
Yeah, and we had the notion that it was someone downstairs opening the door and reflecting light across the window, but as we like sort of sat and watched the window above the bench, we it wasn't replicated. It wasn't even close to what we saw the first time. It was just kind of very obviously the motion of a door opening.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so.
Yeah.
Have you had like a reputable paranormal investigation squad go down there and check it out? Because it sounds like a high activity area.
Well, I mean, Mary and I went down there. If that's kind of what you're.
Oh, fair enough.
It counts.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. You think?
Yeah.
What do you? Huh?
Just surprised you're the first, really. If there's been so much going on.
Actually, that is a good question. I wonder if anyone else has sort of like done an investigation or sort of piece on the phenomena surrounding the two paintings. And I also wonder how long it's been going on for. Do you know anything about that?
I have no idea.
I did hear that there are other artifacts within the museum that also scare them just as much.
Exactly.
What could it be?
I don't know. It's like at the end, before the person who was working at the front desk, what she was talking about with the different instances of the handprint on the inside of the glass that no one can explain, and how the sensors go off in the display cases. So
Right, within? So there's
Yes.
one on the outside and on the interior?
yeah, so there's different sensors for within the display cases so that they can connect. There's a board that goes to each different area, and it's
Yeah.
that specific area that's sent that, like,
So
the
specifically
sensors,
the
that
interior
area.
alarm.
Yes, so that area sets off alarms, and they can track it back down to that specific area for some reason, and they can't explain why there's any movement in just that area, because when they like go through and like check the cameras, like there's nothing there, but it sets off the alarms. Sorry, I'm getting like really freaked out. But I wonder what it is that they have that's actually still in the archival area that's like not on display, that's causing I mean, she talked about like strange things that she's seen herself that have been going on. That's what I want to
Yeah.
know.
It's very spooky, and especially when you consider the portrait of Sarah Molasses that is believed that you must keep it on display so that she can watch people.
Right.
And if she's put away, she sort of wreaks havoc.
I want to know what those stories are of her being put away, and enough that people like talk about it. There's got to be like this whole inside, like,
yeah, I'm sort of
stories.
imagining like the warehouse from the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it is 11:50, so that means it's time for a short PSA break. I'm Roy Michaels. You're listening to the Mystery Hour on 91.9 FM, WMEB, Orono, Maine. And we'll be back in approximately 30 seconds. Don't go anywhere.
When I was little, I didn't talk for a long time. I was sensitive to lights and sounds, so I built secret hiding places where they couldn't get in. Sometimes I did the same things over and over, until one day I found out I had autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I learned how to live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Hey, what up? It's your boy, young Roy Michaels, here on the Mystery Hour, and tonight we are turning up to ghosts. I am joined by Connor and Keith, mainstays on the program, and our newest team member, Mary. And tonight we have been focusing on a series of strange events surrounding two portraits within the Hudson Museum of Molly Molasses and her daughter Sarah. It's been reported that sort of bizarre occurrences happen, things go wrong, alarms go off from the interior of the display cases, not the exterior, and handprints have been discovered on the inside of both displays. A little bit creepy. And we are approaching summer, and I hope that by sharing this ghost story with you, we will provide you with ample resources to be the scariest person at whatever campfire you have coming up. something we are truly shooting for here. And we will be here Fridays at 11 p.m. every week doing this show, and we hope to keep your supply freshly stocked. Now, Keith, I do understand that you've brought a ghost story to share with us tonight.
Yeah, you could actually call it an urban legend of sorts. It has never been certifiably proven, in my opinion, but it is a worthy tale indeed.
Would you like to, were you planning on sharing it with us, or did you just want to have it?
I actually, I'll tell it, why not? So, I guess before I begin, have any of you heard of the expressionless?
No.
The expressionless.
Yeah.
Sounds ominous.
Well, it goes like this. The year is 1972, and the setting is the lobby of the highly acclaimed Cedar Sinai Hospital. This otherwise ordinary day grinds to a halt as a blood-soaked woman enters the building. Unfortunately for the staff, the appearance of injured or bleeding humans is not so unusual. The cause of alarm, however, is whether or not this is even human. Most obviously discomforting to all in attendance is the lack of live human expression presented from this person. Mobility seemed not to be a concern, which is usually a positive in the medical world. However, this figure most accurately represented a mannequin, a plastic skin, stiff appendages, and a grotesquely smooth, flawless visage, completely devoid of eyebrows. It just gave this very strange perfection look. And this was just a terrifying figure to approach for these people. But having vowed to help those in need, the medical professionals, swooped in and tried to do what they could. They brought her to her own room, and they attempted to sedate her, but that did not go according to plan, essentially. The medication did absolutely nothing. All it did was cause her to toss and turn and scream in pain. Except she wasn't screaming from any visual location. The scream just emitted from her body, because her jaw was actually the source of the bleeding, and it was sealed completely tight. There was just a steady stream of blood trickling down from her face onto her garb, and the doctors could not figure out what they were going to do. They couldn't restrain her, they couldn't get her mouth open, they couldn't find out what was happening. So they physically restrained her, essentially. They just, strapped her down to the table and called it good. And so they began working just to free just the grasp of her mouth. They couldn't get it open, and they did what they could. They grabbed both sides and they pulled, and blood gushed everywhere. It was an absolute horrifying scene. There was just blood in every angle. It was unimaginable, basically. A normal wound would bleed outward. If you had an artery, severed, it would pulse out and then, spray, and it would be horrifying. This was like a torrent of blood from every direction. There was no sense to it, and it was immediate cause for panic. So they had to keep going. They obviously couldn't just say, like, all right, this is too much blood, we're out of here, we give up. They kept going, and they found out that there weren't actual teeth in her mouth. They were just sharp, jagged pikes, like almost nails. And because of their shape and their length, they jutted down into her gums, and so almost like a shark, if his mouth was too small, anytime it was closed, it would sink into the flesh and it would be unable to reopen. And they sure did release something that they were not prepared to deal with that day, because the woman actually just screeched a noise. I can't emulate it, of course. It would be totally impossible. It was just a horrific scream as the medical staff fled. All hope had been lost at that point. They simply got up and they ran, and the woman in her, essentially she was convulsing when they were trying to sedate her, and she was emulating this, sort of thrashing around, just trying to be not restrained. And her mouth is open now. She's basically got her weapon, and it is made apparent that this is some sort of evil being. And before you know it, the medical professional, the lead doctor, has been leapt on, his jugular has been severed, and his blood is now gushing out in every possible direction. The medical professionals left the room as soon as they possibly could. They checked the cameras, and all they could find was the blood. So, like, the entire scene was just covered in this red liquid, and the woman is gone. They've never found her since. She doesn't appear on any of the cameras. The lobby camera that, has been recording all day doesn't show her at all.
What was it, in your opinion?
I don't actually know.
Yeah, I can't.
I've never
take
heard of
guess.
a ghoul that does that.
Me neither.
Has it happened since?
I did some brief research right before the show, and I couldn't find anything recently. This has been almost 40 years now.
Wow. There's blood everywhere.
Yeah,
How much do you think it cost them to clean it up?
probably quite a bit,
Yeah.
but I think they're paid fairly well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, blood cleaning is like a great profession to go into.
Yeah,
Kind of, if you're out there, you're thinking about sort of what sort of a degree you want to pursue, I suggest picking up a trade skill and going into to blood cleaning.
high demand.
So, just the fact that the thing has no expression on its face is sort of what's getting me the most. And the fact that this event was reported, but sort of just lost in the ripples of time thanks to the lack of evidence. It kind of reminds me of the Slender Man phenomena that sort of like cropped up in the past 5 years on the internet. Any correlation? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if there's an actual correlation between the two, but I would definitely agree that their cases are similar. A lot of this stuff is, it has been documented 30, 40 years in the past, and prior to now, you'd think that it would be everywhere. But I think that probably just with the advent of the internet and how easy it is to spread information, it's probably just people are, putting two and two together. They're
Yeah,
connecting the dots.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, in a couple of years, I mean, I don't know if we can do this show. All the mysteries will be solved by the internet.
That's true.
Just goes to show. I mean, Robo DJ is next. A robot's going to be replacing us in a couple of minutes here, and he's going to be playing you the finest tunes all night. He's a form of artificial intelligence designed to serve mankind and its desire to party.
I believe we're adding a solving mysteries program to him soon. So
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
ahead of the
We
job.
give him
That's
mystery, and it kind of just solves it.
yep.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Pretty good. I like it.
Yeah.
Kind of. Where did this expressionless event happen anyway?
It's actually in Los Angeles, California.
Los Angeles, spooky town.
Spooky
Let me tell
place.
you, that is the town where the Alyssa Lamb case took place. You guys know about that?
Only because of you, Roy.
Thanks, my boy. So, sort of like what you went off, you mentioned that there was security footage that was taken of the event, and that just so happens to be the most terrifying genre of found footage out there on the internet. And this Alyssa Lamb case begins with a mysterious security video of her in the lobby, not in the lobby, but like in an elevator of a hotel in Los Angeles. You'll have to forgive me for forgetting the name at this moment, but it did have a sinister reputation. A lot of murders occurred there, and it was the place where the Night Stalker, the serial killer, was living during his spree. Anyway, the video features Alyssa Lamb in the elevator, and she's kind of backed into the corner, peering out as if someone's in the hall coming to get her. She's hiding from someone, and she eventually starts trying to hit buttons to shut the door, like just get away from whatever's after her. And then subtly, as you watch the footage, you see her posture just become completely stoic, and it's as if the camera footage froze for a moment, and then she just becomes animated in the most bizarre way. I can't even describe it. It's like she was orchestrated into a imaginary symphony. Like her arms just became fluid, and it was very animalistic. And then she just kind of paced back and forth and disappeared, and she was missing for quite some time, and nobody knew what happened to her until a couple of weeks later. I think it was actually months. You'll have to forgive me for not being specific, but tenants at the hotel started noticing a black water coming out of their sinks and showers and baths. So they sent someone up to the water tower to sort of figure out what's going on. And inside of the sealed water tower, they found the body of Alyssa Lamb with her clothing carefully like thrown next to her. and nobody has been able to sort of solve the case. It's still an unsolved mystery. Her body seemingly got into the tower without opening it. Like, it was sealed shut. There was no way that she or anyone else could have got into it without bringing out some heavy equipment. It's kind of unsolved to this day.
It sounds like it could be a demon, but to reason it further than that, impossible. Who knows?
Yeah, my theory was that her change in behavior, her rapid change, was sort of the result of maybe she was drugged by whoever was pursuing her, and that was the moment when the stuff kicked in and she began to lose control of herself. But that still doesn't really explain how she got into the tower above the hotel without any help.
Yeah, that's what's really puzzling about it. I mean, demons do, they can give you great strength. So maybe, who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah, I'm not actually certain. I just think that the water tower is definitely the weirdest part of the story.
Yeah.
You know, had it been anywhere else, you could just say, oh, she was simply murdered. She was drugged and she was murdered, and it was a horrible situation. But here, we don't actually know that. All we know is that she has been just placed inside of a structure that you can't open.
Yeah, and the worst part is that she was in the water supply for a prolonged period of time and nobody knew. And they were all taking showers, making spaghettis, getting some drinks of water, Yeah, Connor?
Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to say before we get to the end of the show, if you haven't been to the Hudson Museum, if you're into the paranormal or just history, check it out. I haven't been there yet, but I'm definitely going to be there, and I think Keith is, and probably the rest of us. So
I'm not going back.
You're not going back?
Too scary.
I'm going to check it out. And you might even get the chance to see one of the Mystery Hour boys.
Yeah.
If you stop in.
Yeah, thanks. I'm glad the Hudson Museum's a thing here on campus. Very,
Definitely.
very cool place to just kill time between classes.
Yeah.
Well, it is now 12:04, which means we have approached the end of this hour of mystery. I would like to thank Connor, Keith, and Mary, and Jimmy Ozog for producing several original tracks that we play on the show. And finally, I'd like to thank you, the listener, for staying up late with your radio. It's 12:04. You just listened to the Mystery Hour, 91.9 FM, WMB, Orono, Maine. We'll be back next week at 11 o'clock. See you then.